I'm actually overexcited. I'm starting this new range of interviews for Rock Nation. This evening, I'm having the pleasure and actually the honor to have in studio with me the one and only Justin Pearson. What we can say about Justin is basically the head behind the Locust, Def Club, Death Cross, Swing Kid, Holy Molar, and many, many, many more projects. Hey, Justin, how are you doing today?
I'm decent. Thanks so much for having me.
No, thank you very much actually to finding the time to do this. It's really important to me, and it's just amazing to have you in the studio.
Thanks.
Um, Great. Just a small thing. I need to thank Dave Warfich that actually helped me out to construct this interview. Dave is basically the better half for me in Men's Matter, one of my projects, and also uh, a great fan of whatever you've been doing, and actually it's been a massive contribute for basically finding the right questions for this interview. So thanks, Dave. Really appreciate what you've been doing for me. I would like to start with something actually is a kind of a bum question, but this is actually the what we're living at the moment. There's been like a really hard time, like with COVID and everything else. How did you manage during those 2 years that basically like gigs and live and everything else has been completely cancelled from the globe? What have they been doing those 2 years?
It's an interesting question because I mean, yeah, it's been fucked up, but like for me, I look at it like I mean, I had friends like I had friends pass away and stuff. You know, that's it's way more. I don't you know serious detrimental to life on this planet than like me getting some shows canceled or something. But on a I guess on a on a less important and somewhat trivial side of things, like yeah, it sucked having. I think right when like the lockdown stuff started happening with COVID, I had 4 different tours get canceled, and all of those were a bummer. But I think the main bummer was the Locust was supposed to do a tour with Napalm Death, and that was kind of like a big deal for me. And I was like, I was pretty bummed that got canceled. I mean, but I think as weird as it has been, and how the world is, it's like punk kind of makes um it kind of gives you these like tools, I guess, to navigate in a weird world, so like all of a sudden, like it seemed like the apocalypse, and you're like, well, what the fuck am I going to do? Not go on tour, not play shows and stuff, but I did things, so in that time frame, it's like you know um Def Club recorded an LP and then recorded an EP, and I worked on a bunch of stuff at a studio here in San Diego with Luke Henshaw, who's in Planet B and Satanic Planet, and like just did stuff that seemed reasonable and possible within my range of what is what is like a responsible human being during a pandemic, which I've never yet had at the time lived through. So again, it was just weird as fuck, but we got through it, and I mean, as shitty as it's been, you kind of have to just focus and go like, oh, there's these silver linings, like people supporting musicians and buying vinyl and stuff like that was wild. It's so those are things that like kind of ease the pain of what I guess career wise, like I was struggling with or whatever. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, there are other things too. Like there's like this sort of, I hate using these terms and stuff, but like there's like this sort of reset that kind of happened where people like now playing shows. Like I played 2 shows last week, and the vibe is different. It's like there's more intensity and more, I don't know, like I get. No, I don't want to say like, oh yeah, like maybe more appreciation or something. There's more. There's something happening with something like that, because I feel like maybe people kind of took it for granted before the pandemic. So there was like this reset where people were like, oh shit, let's actually appreciate it and not just fucking take advantage of it or whatever. I guess so. That's my long-winded answer for that question.
That's good. Listen, live streaming. I mean, bands they've been doing so. One of the example, I think, like Andrew Jackson's Jihad. I mean, they've been live for the whole time. Like they have been having a live streaming every single week. Do you believe that those kind of things that they actually help the audience to be still connected to the artist, and the artist actually not fundraising, because at the end, I mean, like, though, what are you gonna do out of YouTube? I mean, like, if you're having like millions of followers, maybe you will do that. But do you believe that one has been supportive through music, or it's been just like something in between that will completely disappear into the time?
I don't know. I think it might have made it's kind of like file sharing, you know. It's like when file sharing happened, like I'll just say it sucked, you know. But at the same time, it was also kind of rad because then you could just your shit could be sent all over the world instantly, you know. So I mean, I think like with streaming live shows, it's cool for people if they want to do that. And I think we have technology which gives us the ability to do that now. I mean, unfortunately for me, I think most of the projects that I'm involved in doesn't translate very well in that respect because it's like in a live setting, even if there's no audience. I mean, it really requires the audience. It requires that energy and that connection with those people. So like you know, a good example is like there was this really cool Mets one that they put up. It was filmed really nice. It looked awesome. One, I don't think the bands I'm in have the financial ability to do something like that's produced very as nice as professional and as nice as that. And two, I think it would just be really hard for me maybe with the Locust to be fine and stuff, but like other bands that I'm part of, I think it really does require like an audience and maybe and it doesn't necessarily have to be an audience that likes us. I mean, just so there's someone to fuck with, if or for them to enjoy it. Either way, I just need someone to be there. You know, it's really hard to like pull it off with no one there. So for me, I was just like, that's cool. Everybody's doing this thing. Like, I'm gonna probably not do that. With that being said, Def Club ended up doing like a strange like stream a performance thing synced to our album, and that came out, and that's fine. It was still a little odd, you know, to kind of like go for it, you know, without an audience. Like it just seemed strange to me, and I'm glad that that's not going to be the only way to perform musically now because it's not my jam. Um, I wish I could be like in a super chill band or like a cool band that you could just do whatever without people around. But nah, not
Yeah,
me.
I don't believe it's the kind of smart working you're looking at. I mean, like you're looking for, because I mean, like, I believe in the in noise rock whatsoever, whatever you actually want to judge your music, because honestly, it's so vast, the kind of spectrum that you guys covering. I believe that the audience on the other side is it's actually an exchange. It's not just about whatever is happening on stage. It's actually what's happening even from the audience itself. So it's a kind of equal. So I believe like the energies that to be in
Yep.
sync to do something constructive together.
That energy is more important than the music itself. You know, that is like that's the communication. I think that's really important. So yeah, when it's not there, it's odd, very odd.
Right. So it will be like just an empty room, and you screaming or now, maybe just hammering on bass or something like that. Then
Yeah.
you
Well, that's
actually,
the thing is like I think, you know, if it was the Locust, it might be a little bit easier to perform in that setting. And again, like referencing the Mets one, like, you know, and no offense to them, I think they're a fucking amazing band and what they do is amazing. But they don't just have like a singer. So like as a singer of like let's say you know, if it was Def Club, like I feel like it would be weird for me. But if I have a bass, you know, if it was Dead Cross or the Locust, I kind of could I kind of could like feel it differently. You know, I could um you know, feel it like the the performance would just be different. As a singer, it just makes it fucking bizarre. You know, with no one there. So yeah, I'm glad that's looking to be behind us now because I don't want to deal with it.
looks like actually we are at the end of the tunnel. Finally, I mean, finally. Listen, talking about Def Club and actually the live you had, how was it? Was the audience actually conscious of whatever was happening around? There were like weird moments, or was just a full-on gig? It was like going back to normal. How was it?
Huh. Well, we played two shows last week. One we were in support of Final Conflict and Negative Approach, which are two kind of like, you know, legendary hardcore bands, and we're pretty new, and so, you know, you're the opening band or the support act, so they're not necessarily there for you. So it wasn't like there's two different scenarios, you know. I mean, the crowd was cool, and they were. I mean, I think people liked it, but it wasn't like they were there specifically to see us, you know. So that happened, but the couple nights later, we played a rescheduled record release show, and it was our you know, our show or whatever. We played other bands, but we were headlining, and that was a different vibe because people were just there to see us play, and it was like, you know, people just went fucking ape shit in a respectful way, you know. But there was like the energy happened. It wasn't, you know, like the again, like at the Negative Approach show, there was like this giant, you know, space on the floor of like the audience like avoiding us, you know, and that's fine. And I utilize that, like as a singer, I'll utilize that element. Um, and make it its own performance. But you know, the next show was like people were like in our faces, you know, like they were connecting with us physically and I think mentally, you know. It was like there was like more of an exchange of energy. It became one, and that's like the shit that's special, you know. That's the shit that's like that you can't really get off of YouTube or whatever, you know. Like that was the stuff that was like the real deal. So I'll take that 10 out of 10 times if I can. But it was nice to have that happen and to feel that type of energy again, for sure.
It's good. If we're going back 1 second to the Locust, right? Beside the extreme and overcomplicated and like uh, absolutely like hammering and distorted nature of the Locust, there is a really high percentage of the technical, specific, absolutely like on tempo of all of you. This is coming like for an intense studio rehearsing? Are you guys spending a lot of time together to do so? And how much time you do that? I mean, like, oh, how many times per week you guys you go in the studio? Actually, you are just planning what is happening ahead. What do you do?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, these like now, like, you know, we play occasionally, but we don't rehearse regularly. But when we used to rehearse regularly, when we, you know, before we released our last few records, our last couple records, it was like constant, you know. And it does still happen the same way. We have a couple new songs, but we don't, you know, it'll probably take us fucking 10 years to write a new record. But when we do write, you know, and so we'll spend like, let's say we'll spend 2 months rehearsing, um let's say 2 days each week for 6 hours a day. I don't know how many hours it is. And we'll work on 20 seconds worth of music. And then at some point we'll decide to scrap it and start over. And that's kind of how the Locust works. It's slightly ridiculous, but I also feel that as much as like it might be frustrating to go like, oh, we just spent all this time trying to write this thing that we're just going to throw away. I still feel like there's something that happens in our subconscious or collectively. I don't know, it's weird. There's other things that happen. There's, even though there's not a finished product, something happens, and that, I think that's important. I mean, it's, for me, it's um I sit like at rehearsal, I usually sit really close to Gabe's drums. And so it's wild now because when I play with him, and we've played for so long, and in various projects, but when I sit and play with him, I can instinctively know where he's gonna go. I can it's almost like there's telepathy happening with maybe there is. We're not aware of it, but maybe we are communicating without words. But yeah, so you know, there's things that happen that are good from it. But yeah, writing wise, it's fucking ridiculous. It's totally ridiculous how long it takes to write shit. um and even just to rehearse like the set, you know. I mean, we'll go back and rehearse old music and just tweak it and change it and like fuck with like, you know, a note or like just one little chunk of a piece for hours, you know. And then it's like, I don't even know if anyone gives a shit or notices it, but we do it, and I guess we like it. That also makes us feel comfortable playing older music that we maybe wouldn't necessarily want to play unless we kind of gave it an update. Um, and I think that's important. I mean, it's like when you see bands play older music and it's the same, that's fine. But I like to hear it like with a fresh take on it. Um, and I think it's better with I think we're all better at what we do. So when it changes, I think it's beneficial for everybody. But again, we don't really play what we play for anybody else except us. I mean, I appreciate people liking our band. That's really, really important. But initially, the starting point is like, what do we want to do for ourselves? And that's all that matters. That's initially all that matters. So
You guys been playing almost 25 years, isn't it, together? Something like that.
something like that. It's fucking
Yeah.
weird.
You're still coping with each other. I mean, you still go. Everything is going well. I mean, there's tension. We're going to studio. In particular, looks like you are under a lot of pressure. If you tell me like you're producing a product that literally is about 20 seconds, I mean, and after you scrap it out and you do that again, and there is a like pressure happening in studio, like moments that everyone's like, fuck off. I'm not gonna do this anymore. Like, let's do something else. I mean, what's happening there?
Yeah, I mean, oddly enough, I'll say this about the Locust, and if they hear this, then I'm sure they'll agree. But I think we're all really difficult. But with that being said, I mean, I feel like we're all brothers or family or whatever, and a lot of it hopefully bounces off each other. But at the same time, like being a band that long and doing as much as we've done, it seems like we've been pretty successful. Like no one hates each other. Like we all kind of still get along and want to do things. And I mean, of course, there's like little hiccups here and there, but for the most part, I think we found four human beings that can function in that setting. Which there's a lot of bands that have done that, but there's also like a lot of bands that cannot do that. Where like people hate each other, or they break up permanently, or they replace members, or whatever the fuck it is. And like, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's because for the most part, the people in the Locust don't have egos, I don't think, or there's like just I don't know what the right word is. It works. It like for the most part, we've discovered a way to not be attached to riffs and stuff like that. So like for instance, like if I bring parts to the table for us to write a new song, I'm prepared to have major adjustments, knowing that like once the riff is brought to these certain people, it can change. And if it does, it should, and I think you almost always is for the better. And so especially like if I have a riff and this is how it goes, and in my mind I'm thinking of a some kind of drum beat, but Gabe brings this really fucked up crazy shit. I'm like, oh yeah, I would never have thought of that. Let's change my riff because that beat's sick. So that happens a lot, and I think that's really cool. And then also I think that it's a weird band in the sense with like instrumentation, because Bobby and I have a lot of effects, and then there's Joey with his synth, and so a lot of the where each instrument may fit can shift. Where like usually, I guess guitar would be high end, bass would be low end, synth would be in the middle or something. But we can all kind of like interchange where we fit into things, and I think that's fun, cool for us, and it's interesting as like as a creating art to be able to like I don't for me as a bass player, I don't feel like a bass player like, oh, I can also fuck with this and fit in here somewhere, or like do this thing. Or I mean, for me, I feel like I think and play like um like a drummer or percussively for the most part. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird. It's interesting. I'm glad that the Locust is in my life and has made me um, who I am, or helped me become who I am, because it translates into like other things that I do. Like not even when I'm playing bass, like just singing or just like producing something. Like, oh, I'll think this other way. Like this is really cool. And focus on things that maybe a lot of people might not pay attention to: tension and release and absurdity. I don't know, whatever people might get from it. So
Cool. Regarding your background, I mean, like when everything started, I mean, like you've been a musician for long enough, but do you remember that time actually you're listening to someone which was a massive influential in your life, and you said like, wow, I really want to do this. I started to pick up a bass and
mm.
make some tunes, make some notes, and I don't know if you studied or not. I mean, like if you are trained musicians, would be
Mhm.
interesting to understand. I mean, like how that happened actually, something clicked in your mind and you just say like, I want to do this in my life.
Um, yeah, it's weird because at the time I didn't realize it. You know, even when I started playing in my first band, I didn't really realize it. So it's like in retrospect, you can look back and go, oh, these are the things that led to that. You know, so um, you know, I can name a few bands, and I think that's always relevant. But I also like try to always say, you know, and this is not a diss on you or the question, because I think there's like this typical question, like, what are your influences? And that's fine, but I always think what's more important, or what are the things that influence you to like this weird shit? Like yeah, I could tell you like the birthday party, and you know, I could tell you Crossed Out or fucking whatever band, you know, but like what's more important is like, why am I into like weird ass shit? What are the things in life that made me just be like, I want to get fucking strange and like do and like just be into weird shit, you know? So, but musically speaking, I think it was like there was two like kind of, in retrospect, there's two main things that really pushed me to become a bass player.
Mhm.
And so one would be when I was a kid, I was like when I was like 10 or so, when I first got into punk, I completely obsessed over the Sex Pistols, and that's not the band that, but there's a reason to me saying that. So I was very very influenced by the Sex Pistols, and at the time I didn't really fully understand it. I think Sid Vicious is like pretty silly. As a bass player, yeah, I don't think he's that great. So like I don't think he's good at all. But it was this aesthetic of the band that was really really important to me. It was the non-musical things. I mean, they were great, you know, like now it's just pop music, but at the time they were a great punk band, and I think it was, but it was the antics, it was the art, it was the protest element to it, the pissing off your parents, the kind of fuck you to society thing, that as like a 10-year-old I was like, oh fuck, this is like the best shit, you know. So I was already on this path to sort of like follow what that band did, and I was really influenced without knowing what the Situationists were. Was Situationists International, which was like a lot of what influenced the Sex Pistols art, and a lot of the sort of images and stuff that they kind of prescribed to or portrayed as a band. But it really changed when, obviously, following John Lydon into the world of PIL, that hearing Jaw Wobble's bass lines and stuff, and kind of hearing, you know, because in the Sex Pistols it was like the guitar riff and the bass lines were like following each other.
Mhm.
PIL was something else. You know, I could listen to it and hear these bass lines separate from the guitar, separate from whatever the fuck else was going on, and it was really an interesting thing. I mean, not that they were innovating, you know, creating something new or innovative in that sense of like the bass player was doing his own thing. I mean, a lot of bands did that, but it was for a child, you know, for a 10-year or 11-year-old person, before I even started playing any instruments. I could kind of start to realize what the bass guitar's place could potentially be, not just like the background following the guitar. So there was that band that was like a big deal for me, PIL. Then the other major thing was, okay, I love the Dead Kennedys. I've always loved the Dead Kennedys. Um, I think that like as musicians, they were like top tier, you know, like they're out of punk bands, they were like, and no offense to like, you know, Minor Threat or Black Flag or something, but the Dead Kennedys kind of like had more um I guess musical talent. I don't know what the right word is. You know, like they just were like better trained musicians, or better at playing their instruments. Like they could play like I don't know, I don't want to like be a dick, you know, but they were like they could play like cooler, harder technical stuff, you know, they
Sure.
could
Yeah.
play jazz shit or whatever. Like and I sound like an idiot saying that, but like, you know, like it wasn't like as simple. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But it was like being obsessed with that band and Alternative Tentacles, and buying stuff But when you buy, like, when I was a little kid, I'd buy the Dead Kennedys records. It would come with the Alternative Tentacles catalog, and it was that helped me discover No Means No, and that was, as a bass player, hands down, No Means No fucked it up for me, because I was like, oh shit, I want to play bass, like, that's the instrument. Like, that really was that band, its bass playing really um connected with my brain, or honed in on like what kind of stuff I should do. So it was No Means No that really fucked it up. And it was a trip to, like, kind of hear a band where the bass was on the forefront of the instrumentation, and I was just like, wow, this is wild. And, like, I'm trying to think of bands that, like, that kind of had a focal point on basis. I don't even, the stuff that's coming to mind, I don't even want to say it, but it really was No Means No that did it for me. And I think, like, for me, I could hear that influence in some Locust stuff. I can kind of hear it a little bit here and there. But then it was like, and then there was another shift where it was like I started getting into weird synthesizer music, and realized that with effects I could basically do similar things. I was really into, like, bands like Six Six Sputnik and Yellow and stuff like that, where I was like, oh, this, with all these effects, like, my bass guitar sounds like a synth. And so that was kind of another huge shift for me as well. That was later on, Locust stuff, but yeah, I don't know. And there's a lot of things that really influenced me. I mean, I was just talking to my mom the other day, actually, about when I was a child, and she had me go. She was so cool, and, like, supported me as, like, uh tr- as becoming, like, a musician or whatever, and, like, playing in a band. Like, she liked all my friends in my first band and stuff. And but she, I was like, I think I need to take lessons. And I remember, like, going to this guy. I think I went once or twice. And and he was telling me, he was really kind of condescending to me, and was, like, telling me not to play with a pick. And I was like, what? I mean, all the people that I see play, that I like, the bands, like, all the bass players play with a pick. And I was just like, why is this guy being a dick to me? Like, I like those bands. Like, I don't know. And so then I quit. I only went twice, I think, and then never took a lesson. I never learned shit. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna go and play. I mean, I played with my fingers in Struggle, my first band, but after that, I needed to play faster, and I realized that the pick would do it. So yeah, it was weird. I don't know if I just went off on a tangent. So,
Sounds good. What are you? Oh, okay. It just
sorry, I
disappeared.
have to charge my computer.
That's all right. No worries. Listen, there's a big thing happening, like, around it. It seems like punk rock and punk in general here in UK has had a kind of renaissance, in particular with the Bristol scene. If you look in, like, Heavy Lungs or Idols in particular, the last 5 years, even more, because Idols have been around for more. All this kind of a left field alternative punk rock music is coming back with the message and so on. From my point of view, failed massively, in particular with Idols in the last few albums. I don't want to judge. I mean, music, they're still great, but the message itself actually is been diluted in something else. But do you still think that actually extreme and the left field music is having a role into the actual society, in particular in protest music?
Well, I think there's, like, varied levels of what you could do as far as protest music, because um you can be overtly political, and, say, like, whatever you want to say. Your message could be, like, on your t-shirt or your whatever, or you could just function as an ethical band, and generate social change. Like, you could be a band, you could be um a band, and play a benefit show for a charity, or for a fundraiser, or for an organization. Or you can, the way you function as a band, like, not play certain venues, or make sure, or I don't know, like, I guess a good example would be, like, um Pearl Jam. I think, or musically, I think they're terrible. But I think that, like, their ethics are amazing. And, I mean, they weren't. I mean, they are political band to some extent, you know, I guess, but they don't, to like mainstream people, mainstream music world, they don't seem like a political band. They're just like, oh, that's cool, Pearl Jam, like I'll rock out to that, you know, at the barbecue or whatever the fuck. But they are like extremely political, and I think that's I think it's cool to find the subtleties and this like nuance where you're not um, necessarily alienating people, because it does alienate people to be overtly political. And I'm a big fan of alienating people, and I do it. I've done it. I'll do it. I'll keep doing it. But I also think that, you know, there's like this sort of Trojan horse aspect where like they'll, you know, you'll get in there and like next thing you know, like let's say you're just some fuckhead, you know, neo-fascist, whatever, and you're like, oh shit, I like Rage Against the Machine. I totally fucked up, you know, like I'm a Nazi and I like, you know, this, you know, social democratic band or whatever, you know, whatever, this leftist, you know, radical leftist band, like whatever. So like I think that shit's kind of cool and funny and rad. Like I remember back like I mean, I guess the reason why that came up is because before I dropped out of college, like I remember being there and like seeing people, like I saw this fuckhead wearing a Rage Against the Machine shirt with Che Guevara, I think, on it. And I don't necessarily remember what happened, but he, you know, he was just talking shit to me, and I'm pretty sure he probably said like I'm a faggot or something like that, you know. And I was like, that's cool, you're wearing Che Guevara shirt. You know, he had no clue what was on his shirt, you know. And I was like, joke's on you, dude. You know, like whatever. I don't care. Like we'll go on in life, and good luck to that fuckhead. But like, you know, it's like those are the kind of things that are cool. But I do think like I do think that I don't know. Like there was some interview that I saw with Ian MacKaye where someone was asking him about the lyrics and about like, you have, you know, why write a song about this topic again or something. And he was like, well, if this thing still exists, we need to correct it, you know. And I don't, it was something to do with like um being pro-choice or something. I can't remember, but like, you know, it's like, okay, like even now, it's like right now, like women's rights are, you know, like the right to a safe and legal abortion is becoming is under attack again in certain states here in the US. Like, then I think we need to fucking address that again. Like, fuck, I'll write a whole record about like being pro-choice if we have to, you know. And if that's gonna, I mean, maybe it won't change the world, but maybe it will change in increments, and those are better than not changing any increments. You know, I'll take whatever. Like, we got to do what we got to do. And I would love to just sing about like arbitrary bullshit, you know, like bringing sexy back would be really fucking easy to sing about, maybe. But instead, I would like, I think, oh, we got to address like, you know, white supremacy or you know, fucking up the planet, you know, like destroying the environment. Like these are things like, okay, well, we probably should like, I mean, I can't even like, my mind doesn't even go to like normal shit. My mind goes to like, this is fucked up, let's write a song about this. But again, like going, like maybe trying to come full circle is like instead of just saying the obvious, like, this is my protest, fuck this thing, whatever. Do it with a little bit of intellect and art. So at least it kind of can like move past, you know, like the morons, like maybe some moron, like, I mean, even yesterday, I fucking hate social media, but like some dick was like coming at me about something I said about fuck white supremacy. And this guy was like coming at me and was like trying to debate me on Instagram. And I'm like, dude, you know, like no matter what, like, you're just I was like, just unfollow me, man. Like I wouldn't want to follow someone that thought I was a moron. So just unfollow me, you know? And like he did, and he tried to pull his shit, but like I like, dude, just stop. Like I don't need these fucking assholes. I don't want to say assholes. I don't need these dumbasses. I would just say dumbass. Like if you're gonna fucking argue with me about white supremacy, about how you're in support of white supremacy, like we got a problem, you know? And so it still exists, you know, like these like issues still exist. So like, yeah, I think protest music is relevant. I think it's always been relevant. It's just it's just how you choose to see the world, you know. I mean, fuck, we're starting World War III right now, you know, like that's
True.
it's weird. Like it's really, really weird. There's never a time where it's like, oh fuck, there's no like, you know, urgent thing that we should be addressing. There's always a goddamn urgent thing to address, like no matter what. And it sucks, but I think that's our place as artists, you know, to kind of reflect the world that we live in, and not necessarily correct it, you know, but attempt to correct it, or to communicate with people. I mean, and if our communication is like me playing a show and people, you know, feeling like a connection about whatever song we're playing, or some asshole trying to say like that he's in support of white supremacy, like either way, like we're getting somewhere, because I'm like connecting with this person, and I'm telling this other person to go fuck themselves, and that's good, because we're moving somewhere. You know, it's not just like arbitrary whatever. You know.
Yeah. It was some really interesting regarding World War III we were talking about. I mean, like, we're talking about Russia invading Ukraine. Um, that's a really sensitive topic because I mean, like, seems like after pandemic, everyone was looking after pandemic is still there. I mean, like, whatever is happening now,
Yeah.
at the end of the tunnel, okay, let's call it like this. We were thinking about a better, peaceful. But I mean, war has always been there anyway. There are other parts of the world that actually still there is war. Actually, we don't even mention it. We
Yeah.
don't even talk about that because it's not really close to us. But Russia just invading Ukraine, it broke some schemes. What do you think is going to happen next, for your point of view?
Specifically with Russia starting a war.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's interesting to watch it unfold so far. It's like, you know, being um, from the United States, I think it was interesting to watch our administration kind of flex this, like, I don't know. It's a fucked up subject that's okay. Like, I think it was weird that like it was just, you know, we have our administration just kind of saying like, oh, you know, we're gonna put sanctions on Russia. Like, I feel like there needs to be more of like, I mean, I think that it's weird because this is a fucking loaded question.
I
You
know
know,
that.
I think for one, I think man, I don't even know where to go with this.
That's fine. We can cut it if you want. We can
No, no,
cut it.
no, 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 no. No. I mean, it's just I think it's very important. I think no matter what, like I feel like, when is war justified? I mean, it's not really justifiable. I think there has to be a way for diplomacy, and but humans lack empathy and intellect, and so we just act like fuckheads and do something stupid and irrational. And a lot of it comes down to capitalism and, you know, fucking administration's egos and shit like that. It comes down to a much larger global picture of whatever. I mean, I think that like as a species, we should try to achieve peace at all, you know, at all, on all accounts. But like, I don't know, like I can't relate, because I wouldn't want to go start a war. Like I would think like this is not an option. Like war is not an option. People are gonna die. Like why? I don't want anyone to die. You know. So like why would that even be like the move? I feel like it's just some. I don't know. I mean, fucking all governments and all war is wrong. Like it's just they fuck up. Everyone fucks up. Russia's fucking up. America's fucked up. Like it's crazy. It's really wild to see it. So I don't know. I have little faith in politicians, and I have zero faith in um, the Russian administration, and I think NATO allies and the American government to fucking curb this shit. You know, I think there's like, again, I think a lot of it ties into capitalism. Like there's money to be made. All these fuckers there's something else happening always, like a underneath of any kind of war. I mean, war generates profit, and that's where we're headed always. You know, I mean, fucking look at Afghanistan, like jack that place up. Look at Iraq, you know, fuck that place up. Like there's money to be made, and that's the sad part, you know. And it's the crazy thing is because there's money to be made and we're destroying our fucking planet, killing innocent lives. So what's the next step? I don't know. I mean, I was pretty shocked that like it even happened, but then now that it's happening, it's like it just seems Putin set it up, you know. I mean, he's like picking away these little edges of the I guess little edges of spaces of places where he could take over, you know. And it's happened in 2014 and I think 2011. So I don't know. It's weird. It's fucking weird. I wish I had a more educated and articulate way to answer the question, but it just seems. I mean, this might sound very very naive of me, but what it comes down to is I'm just against all war, and I think that all governments are fucked, unfortunately. So that's my like answer. That sounds like pretty naive and like punk rock or something, but like that is my overall view on it, you know. And I think I do feel a bit helpless as to far as like what can I personally do, you know. I mean, I guess live a better life or live a life that is in sync with what I think would benefit humanity or something. I don't know. I support the Ukrainian people. I think that I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. It's a weird time.
Yep, absolutely,
But
absolutely.
it's a proxy. It seems like a proxy war. It did seem like a proxy war before it started, at least between America and Russia. It was just, but I mean, I'm only hearing it from this sort of perspective. I mean, I do get my news from various sources that I think are trustworthy, but it did seem like a proxy war, and it does seem like a potential for World War III.
Yep, it looks like it's a benchmark for World War III.
Yes.
Moving on, something a bit more, peaceful. Let's talk about 31G actually putting into the roster one of my favorite bands, which is an Italian band, Zeus.
Yeah, I love those guys.
Jeez, man. I mean, I really appreciate it when I saw your cooperation in Seek Industry. I was like, wow, this is great. How did you discover them? I mean, how you just bring them through their album into 31G? I was surprised. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, okay, so the way 31G essentially functions is like these are bands that I met them on tour, you know. I mean, I met Zeus on tour, and I felt like they were family, you know. I love them, and I love their music, and I love them as people. And I think seeing them perform was honest and sincere and innovative and inspiring. And I was like, fucking A, like this, that's the shit. Like that's what I want to have, you know. That's what 31G is to me. And it was like we got to work together. So, you know, they asked me to sing on a song. And it's like probably one of my favorite things I got to collaborate with. It's just a ripper of a track. And then the band's just awesome. And I've toured with them a bunch with different bands, and I just love them as people. And so it makes sense. But anyhow, like that's with all of our releases, like it's like I run the label with a couple people, and none of us make any money, and we all do this weird thing for the sake of art. And I think if we're gonna lose money or all of us spend our time on something, we have to do it for something that we really really love and appreciate. And so Zeus is one of those bands. They're fucking so rad. So there's that.
Yeah, some good stuff over there. Some good stuff. Hopefully, I mean, we want to see them soon on the 31G. Do you having any news for us? What is coming next on the any new releases happening in
Yes.
2022?
I hate like jumping the gun, but there's like a bunch of stuff, and it's been kind of wild. We are going to be releasing the new Haunted Horses record. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them, but I saw that band and I was just like, fuck. Like, okay, I don't I don't really like a lot of stuff. Like I just don't. I'm a dick, or like I don't know. Like for me to like it, it has to be something insanely special. And I saw Haunted Horses and I was like, holy fuck. You know, I thought about all these things like, oh, I got like two different bandmates of mine. I'm like, they got to see this. Like they need to see this. This is so incredible, you know? And then it like right before I, right after that, like their manager was like, "You want to put out their record?" And I was like, "Yes, yeah, this is fucking incredible." So there's a new Haunted Horses record. Then there's a band called Netherlands. Same kind of situation. Like I toured with those guys. The main songwriter Timo just thought he was such a bizarre weirdo dude, and I was like, captivated by what he created and how he performed, and I'm like, I love the fact that I would see him perform his music and just be like, what the actual fuck? Like, how does this guy come up with this, or like, why does he do this? And it was just brilliant shit. So he hit me up and I was like, yes, please, let's do a Netherlands record. So there's those two things, and then there's another project that we're going to be releasing, which is this old record that came out on Ebullition in the 90s by this band called End of the Line, which was like basically the members of Heroin kind of shifted around with a different singer. Oh, nice. And we got the tapes and we remixed and remastered that with Tim Green from one of my favorite bands, Nation Ulysses. And we'll be re-releasing that record, which is totally insane because when that record came out, that changed shit for me. And I don't think a lot of people might not know about it, but it's just like, I don't want to say it's like 90s hardcore. I mean, it is technically 90s hardcore, but it's better than like what you might consider 90s hardcore, like the genre or whatever. I don't know, like the label of it. Like it's just fucking rad shit. And so hearing it remixed and remastered is like, oh, because the original mixes were pretty bad. It didn't really. I mean, it worked for me as like a 17-year-old who had no ability to like understand like a proper mix. It just seemed odd, but like now hearing it like cohesive all the way through, it's rad. And then also too, like, some of those people in that band are legends, and I love them dearly. Matt Anderson being one from Heroin, and Aaron Montaigne, who was in Heroin and Antioch Arrow. And then Corey Lindstrom, who is the singer for the band. I was briefly in a band with him called Brain Tourniquet. So it's just really rad to have that kind of come full circle. That was the start of me playing music. I toured with End of the Line, Struggle did, when I was 16, 15, maybe 15 actually. So like now it's like, oh cool, we're gonna put this record out on 31G. It's rad. And those are important things too, like kind of the new modern stuff, like Netherlands and Haunted Horses, and then the old stuff from our past, or my past, End of the Line. It's nice to have both of them together at once. I think it just, I don't know, it's cool. There's labels that will like reissue old stuff, and that's fine. And then there's labels that that only do like, upcoming like this or brand new shit. So it's nice to just be able to have a variety of releases.
Yeah. Sounds you guys pretty busy over there. I mean, I'm really glad about that.
It's fucking crazy how busy it is, always, every day. But it's worth it. I love what I do, and I appreciate everybody that I get to work with. Even if I'm not like, even if I'm just releasing their record, I'm still working with them, and I appreciate that.
Sounds good. Apart, I heard before actually you don't like that much music, as you said, but you you like any other Italian band by your emotions?
Wait, what?
Do you like any other Italian bands that is coming in your mind? Anyone else actually you saw during your gigging rounds?
Well, I love With Love. That band With Love was always awesome. I got to play with them with Swing Kids, and I think the Locust did. They were always one of the raddest bands to be around. And then who else? Well, those guys in Zeus have all these other weird ass projects that are awesome. There's like the orchestra one that they have. That shit's fucking pretty wild. And then I don't know. I can't, off the top of my head, I'm not sure of any current ones.
I don't believe actually I don't remember any current ones myself, but I agree with Zoo. Zoo, they were like
Zoo, of course. Yeah. Oh, fuck. That band was awesome too. Actually, Gabe from the Locust was in that band for a while, and we played with them a bit. That shit was rad and weird and wild. So yeah, definitely Zoo.
Good, really good stuff. Really good stuff. Also, 2014, your collaboration in the movie of Asia Argento, Misunderstood. you actually dropping with Gabe Serbian one our 7 inch out of it as well with three. There were three songs, were there on top of that, isn't it?
It was 2 songs with Gabe, and then me and Gabe and Luke Henshaw helped score part of the film, which wasn't like song stuff. It was just more like film score pieces. But yeah, that was cool. That actually, that collaboration was what started the band Planet B. So we started playing our own music after we did this our portion of the film score. We just kept jamming and making up our own songs.
So how that happened the collab? So how Asia actually approached you guys?
Her and I have a mutual friend, Echo Dannon, who was a music supervisor, and so I don't know how I met Echo, who lives in New York, just I think from touring, and she helped license some music for a film that came out before that, a Retox song or something, and then at one point she was like, "Hey, my friend Ozzy is looking for this person to act in a movie. I think you'd be perfect. Would you be up for it?" And I was like, "Yeah." And then she sent Ozzy a clip of me on Jerry Springer, and that was, I think, kind of what got me the job. And so, I met Ozzy and on tour in London with Retox, and it was just, I think it was like meeting each other and kind of connecting on a personal level solidified it. Like, okay, yeah, let's go ahead and or she went ahead and said like, yeah, you should be in this film. And so then I went to Italy and filmed, my scenes in that film. And it was, while I was there filming, it was I remember one evening afterwards, we were discussing, I can't remember the name of this film. It's this like weird science fiction film that she was really into, the score of it. And I was like, oh, so by the way, who's doing the score for this movie? And she was like, you want to take, like she had some ideas. And so me and Luke and Gabe um, did like probably, I guess maybe a third of the film score. And then there were 2 other like groups of people. So there was like 3 chunks of people scoring the film. And it was my first time working on a film score, which was fascinating and awesome. But even to backtrack, I learned a lot when I was filming with Azia, because we would film these scenes and she would instruct everybody, like, this is the beat to this scene, like this is the tempo. And so you would walk or move, to the tempo, or you would speak, or they would set like a tone, or a pace. I set a pace for it, and it was really interesting to kind of see that. I mean, now I see film way differently, but it was like experiencing that firsthand was really helpful, especially diving into working on the score. Just kind of like finding the pace of things, letting there be breath or no breath or whatever it is, like that. It was cool. So it was fun, and it was nice to also collaborate on our own, and then hear what the other 2 groups of people brought in as well, because there were some times where I was like, wait, what the fuck? They have a theremin too? Or like, how did they know to do this? Or like, is that ours? Or like, I don't think that's our part. But it was weird because everyone was kind of on this certain level, like we weren't writing with these other people, but the stuff we were submitting all fit together very nicely. And I think that says a lot about songwriting or scoring of a film. So yeah, anyhow, I learned a lot from it, but it was fun. It was really nice to work with her and everybody else on that project. It was cool for sure.
Yeah, the chance met is that Dario Argento is actually a massive, masterpiece as a column. Have you ever watched any of his movies though?
Yes, yeah.
I love that thing. I'm sorry, I'm really passionate about horrors from the 70s. I mean,
of course, yeah.
yeah.
The best era of horror films, and maybe 80s too, but 70s and 80s for sure. It definitely was on to something.
Yeah, it was a great stuff. I do have a last question for you. Actually, I have 2 questions. I mean, like, what's your opinion about live streaming and Spotify and Apple Music and so on and so on? And also regarding this question, do you think though that because the lifespan of the audience is actually shrinking daily by day, because TikToks and things like that, they're reducing basically the attention to 20 seconds and maximum 8 minutes. It's still important to be part of live platforms, so like for instance Spotify, Apple Music, whatsoever. I mean, like Deezer, I don't remember all of them. Or it's better actually to do DIY stuff and being on the other side. What's more important for you?
Okay, what's more important is an interesting question on its own. But let's like kind of unpack a few things, because for one, I think that most of the platforms that you listed are well, okay. Let's just start with Spotify. Spotify is insanely unethical and totally not in support of the artists. So it's capitalism at its finest, which is shitty for the people contributing to it, the people that are making them money. And that, I think that's fucked. And it's funny because like we can use Spotify as an example with the Joe Rogan thing and how he's getting like all this shit. Like, I mean, for one, fuck Joe Rogan, but for two, Spotify already sucked like before people were getting upset and boycotting. And it's fine. Like, there's a speculation that like Neil Young and whoever else joined Neil Young with pulling their stuff off of Spotify was done because of other streaming platforms trying to out monopolize Spotify, I guess. But and that's fine. Like, I'm whatever. All the entities can fuck with each other and they can fight it out in their own wars. But like, I do think that Spotify just sucked from the fucking get go, because it's like when I get paid from Spotify. Like, granted, I'm not like in any huge bands, but I'll get like paid like 0.00006 cents of whatever. It's like, and then I have to split that by 4 or 5. It's just it's a fucking joke, a total joke. So it's cool that, like, let's say Neil Young can say I'm pulling my music and make a big stink about it, and maybe get other artists on board and at least start dialogue of the larger picture, which is like an ethical discussion. But for me, so like, I on social media, I made a comment a while back about it, and I just was like, Spotify's always sucked. And then instantly, most people are like, you're right, and they were like agreeing with what I said. Then there are like the people that are just dicks, and they're like, you're on Spotify, and I'm like, I know, I get it. So for me, it's not my decision to be like, I'm fucking out of here, because like, for one, I'm in a band with 4 or 5 other people or 3 other people, depending on the project. There's other people. Sometimes there's another label that I don't have anything to do with. Like, it's not my decision to be like, fuck Spotify, I'm not gonna be on it, and so like, yeah, it just sucks. I'm not Neil Young. Like, I don't have the ability to pull my product or my art and find a way to, I don't want to say survive, because it's not, because like the royalties are a joke. It's a fucking joke. So like, that's not where, but Spotify is a level of exposure that someone else is profiting on directly. Maybe I'm profiting in some roundabout way where like someone discovers it, and then I don't know, whatever. I just don't have the ability to pull it. And I just think it's a fucking bad platform that's not really in it for the artist. And again, like, I think a more ethical streaming platform would be something like Bandcamp. But even at the same, and this is no disrespect to Bandcamp, but like, I really do still think that Bandcamp could be radder for the artist. I just feel like, if you, let's say you start these entities, and that's cool, and you should be rewarded monetarily for whatever you do. But at some point, you're filthy rich and you own Bandcamp. Just be like, you know what? Let's just hook everybody up and like give the artist 90%, I don't know, whatever, 90% of the income, or just whatever. Like, you don't need the money. Like, you don't need it. Just fucking be cool. You do not need it. So that's That's my problem. And maybe that's because like I grew up as a communist or something, or fucking, and now I'm an anarchist or whatever. Like I think that there should be we should level the class structure that we have. There's these corporations or these entities that are just killing it, and then there's the people that are, I mean, you look at Bandcamp or fucking Spotify, whatever. There's so many people on there that are broke as fuck.
Yeah.
And then there's like some asshole, like the owner of I mean, maybe the owner of Spotify is not a total asshole, but I think he might be an asshole. Anyhow, he is making a lot of money, and I don't really think he's ever written like one decent song. If he has, someone prove me wrong or show me, so I'll shut up. But like that fucker hasn't written a good song.
Yeah.
But he'll sell 200,000 new, or he'll make money off of 200,000 new songs per day that get on Spotify. That's some crazy amount of shit that artists are dependent on now, and that's a big issue, I think. So I mean, again, I see the benefit of it. Like it was harder back in the day before the internet, before file sharing. Like it took fucking forever to get your record out there, and took forever to get someone in Germany to hear my 7-inch or whatever. And now it's like it happens instantly. It'll happen within the same minute, of it being put online. That's cool, I guess. But I don't know. Someone's making a lot of fucking money off of everybody, and that's just seems like a drag. I don't know, if I was a millionaire, I'd just be hooking everybody up. I don't need that kind of money. I don't think anybody does. But whatever, that's just me. I might have not answered your question though.
No, it was pretty much. I mean, like my thought as well. I mean, I believe that the platform itself is not really artist friendly. It was more about to understand if your point was that one, so basically like an artist that they're not getting rewarded out of it, it's actually destroying the music itself, because at the moment we're producing more singles that albums themselves, because they have to go into compilations, then not because the attention is going really slimmer, people that can listen more than 30 seconds for a song, and they skip into the next one.
Sure.
Which is like a joke. Honestly, it's a joke. So I believe that, yeah, I agree that Bandcamp is most likely is an alternative and give the opportunity, most likely not the visibility that Spotify that sometimes does for weird algorithm there inside Spotify.
The algorithm is a bummer too, though. Like I think it's fucking terrible. I remember when I first discovered. Sorry to interrupt you, but I remember when I first discovered Spotify. I was like, "What is this? Like, how does this work?" And they're like, "Here, look, put on the Locust channel or whatever it was, whatever you call it." I've actually never even really normally. I don't use Spotify. I've listened to Spotify, but I've never listened to it. You know what I'm saying? So like, they put on the Locust, and I was like, and then it just kept suggesting, like, minded music, and I was like, and I was just getting offended by the choices. Like, what the fuck? Who thinks that like this? I don't even want to say, because some of the shit that came on after it are like kind of my friends and stuff. But I'm just like, dude, this is not acceptable. And then it's fucked up because it's like telling you what you should like, where I think give humans a little bit more credit, because I think people should have like the ability to have varying tastes. I mean, I feel like it's just, I don't know, like if it was up to me to curate like the Locust channel, it would probably fail. But because they're just trying to find shit that just sounds like a fucking, to me, a weak version of the original thing. Like, here, what else is just like it? Like that's not cool or creative or it's not interesting to me. And also too, like, I like to choose my own stuff. Like I like to say, like, I'm gonna listen to this. I don't want someone to put on this other band that is potential garbage, in my opinion, just because some fucking algorithm thinks that it's the same. And that algorithm is completely wrong, because I don't understand how the algorithm even happens. Like we don't deal with, we don't, what is it, like sales, like our sales reports? I don't know, like how do you even figure out like what the metadata of music is? Very limited to a bunch of kind of weak, whack, stupid genres, and it's just it fails every time, in my opinion. I think if you have real taste in art or music, that shit should not work for you. That algorithm should not work for you if you have real taste, because eventually you're gonna you should have specific taste. It shouldn't just be like, oh, it's wild. They're screaming. They're all screaming, and there's a fucking synthesizer. I don't know, like, or whatever the fuck it is. I don't know what the algorithm is that's picking it, but it sucks, and I completely do not have any connection with it or any interest in it. But with that being said, I'm not gonna say like no to it, because I'm not in the place to do that. Unfortunately, if I was a fucking millionaire, maybe I would, but I'm not. So it is what it is.
Yep, is what it is at the end. Let's conclude. Let's do the conclusion and wrap up with just the last question. You say that the Locust, they are recording a couple of songs. We knew from the past actually was an album which has been written but never recorded. When is coming a new record of Locust at this point?
I wish I had that answer. At some point right before the pandemic, we seemed to be on this trajectory to start writing. Like that was our thing.
Yep.
And then we were going to do a tour, and we kind of shifted to rehearsing a set. Then the pandemic happened, and we didn't see each other for over a year. And then we recently did some shows, and we're not rehearsing. So I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, I'll just say like it's in the cards, or it's in the stars, or whatever you want to call it. Like it'll happen, but don't hold your breath and wait. It'll happen when it happens, and it's gonna probably be a long fucking time. But I mean, it's just weird because we have like a lot of music that we demoed, probably close to like 8-9 years ago or something, and I think everybody hates it now. So there is like if we were to, yeah, everything's changed since New Erections. Everything has changed. The world has changed. So it's just not the same. So I'm not sure how or when it'll happen, but I'm pretty sure that at some point there should be a new album, but I don't know when.
Let's say soon. Not now, but it's gonna happen at some point, guys. Let's be like this. Let's be positive out of it. Right. JP, I really have to say thank you for
Thank you.
your contribute. It's been like a blast having you here in for Rock Nation. Thank you very much for your time, and yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for following us, and speak soon.
Thank you so much.
Cheers.
All right.